Godzilla throws a fair coin n times. Find the expression in terms of n for the probability that Godzilla gets at least one head and at least one tail. A question that is only actually 2 marks, but most GCSE students got it incorrect in their GCSE exam. So you have Godzilla throwing a coin n times, or an expression in terms of n for the probability that he gets at least one head and at least one tail. The best way for me to explain this to you is to give you an example where it's not in terms of n. Let's just say Godzilla throws a fair coin 2 times. Let's look at the outcomes he could have got. Well, if you throw it 2 times, he could have got heads, heads. Don't know why I wrote like that. He could have got heads, tails, tails, heads, and tails, tails, right? Now, I want the probability for Godzilla to get at least one head and at least one tail. So at least one head and at least one tail means the only options we cannot have are these 2. Okay? So we can have these 2, but not these 2. Because this does not have at least one tail in it, and this one does not have at least one head in it. Let's take a look at 3 times. Let's see the pattern here. So if he threw it 3 times, he could have got 3 heads, head, 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 then head, head, tails. So the way to get all the options here, guys, is you introduce one or the other, then you just move it over, okay? So head, tails, heads, move it over, tails, heads, heads. Then, from here, we can introduce 2 tails, head, tail, tail, then move the heads over, tail, heads, tail, move it over, tail, tail, heads. Then finally, we just get 3 tails. Okay? So from here, which one would be a suitable option? Okay, we want at least one head and at least one tail. You can see here, guys, the option we don't want are these 2, but we have a lot more options that we do want. Okay? Think about if I did this 100 times. If it was 100 times, there would only be 2 that I don't want and all the in-between that I do want. So here we go back to n times, find an expression in terms of n for the probability that Godzilla gets at least one head and at least one tail. We want all of these in-betweens. But what's the quickest way of finding all these in-betweens? Because to find out all these probabilities and then add them up, even here is really long. But what we could do is work out what these 2 probabilities are and then subtract from 1. Because we know all these probabilities have to add up to 1, even here. They all add up to 1. So work out the ones that you don't want and subtract from 1 will give you the ones that you do want. So let's think about the n times. The only options that we don't want are getting heads n times and tails n times. How do we calculate those probabilities? Well, the probability of getting heads is half. So we're doing a half times a half times a half because we're flipping that coin consecutively, right? So you're multiplying. Yeah, you're multiplying all these options together. So you're doing a half times a half times a half times a half n times. That would be a half to the power of n. Same with this one. This is going to be a half to the power of n. Okay? So to find out what they are in total, we'll just add these together. Or, just to cut a long story short, we just do 1 take away these 2. So we're doing 1 take away a half to the power of n, take away a half to the power of n. Now in the GCSE exam, they weren't very clear about how much they want you to simplify this, but we can actually simplify it really nicely. So I can simplify it nicely by saying that there's 2 of these, but also a half. We don't really like writing, fractional powers. We can write that as 2 to the minus 1 minus 2 to the minus 1. Okay? Which, I think I've written too low on the board there. I'll write again. Let's go over here. Just in case I get told off by my editor, which there's not much to edit anyway, but 1 minus a half is 2 to the minus 1. Yeah, it just means reciprocate to the power of n. Subtract 2 to the minus 1 to the power of n. So by the way, like I said, this is a fine answer. I'm just going to simplify it because that's the mathematician in me. When you have a number raised to a power raised to another power, we multiply the powers. So 1 minus 2 to the power of minus n. Subtract 2 to the power of minus n. Here, these are the same thing. It's like doing minus x minus x. Minus x is minus 2x. So you get 1 minus 2 lots of 2 to the minus n. There's 2 of them. So I've said there's 2 of them. Okay. Then I see 2 numbers with the same base. I add the powers. That's 2 to the power of 1. So we can add the powers. We get 1 minus 2. Adding the powers, we get 1 minus n. And that is the cleanest solution to what the probability is of Godzilla getting, what is it? At least one head and at least one tails and all that good stuff. So if it was 3 times, when n is 3, you'd just sub in 3 here. You would get 2 to the power of 1 minus 3, which is 2 to the power of minus 2, which is a quarter. And a quarter, 1 minus a quarter is 3 quarters. Now this is 6/8, which simplifies to 3 quarters. So here you can see how it works. And that is how we do this question. A pretty interesting probability question. So guys, like the video, save this video, favorite it, all that good stuff, share with a mate if you want them to get good grades as well. And subscribe for more maths content. I'll see you in the next video. Nice.